Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we are reading some stories from our /malicious compliance. Let's get into the stories. Entire class skips optional early start to lab. From Mechly Enthusiasm. I'm a second-year veterinary student. This is the time when we start our live surgery labs. We work in teams of 3 students, a surgeon, an assistant, and an anesthetist, and are obviously overseen by certified specialists, anesthesiologists and surgeons, and many experienced vet nurses as well. We have lectures 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. Lunch is 11 to 12. Our lab begins at 12 p.m. sharp. However, we were told we have the option to come to lab early and begin. It became very clear after the first week this is an expectation, not an option, that we will skip lunch or eat during lecture and come straight to the OR. During one lab, at 11:50 a.m. the anesthesiologist yelled at a student for a few minutes in the pharmacy area while getting drugs for lab, for not having his patient ready and waiting in the induction room. 10 minutes for lab even begins. And this group was set to induce during the last wave, normally 1 to 1.5 plus hours in the lab. There's no reason to be an hour early when your group is final wave, being on time is sufficient, and they were actually still early. Our class has been getting berated by this anesthesiologist as well as some of the surgeons in this lab. Just as one example, a student surgeon asked for help. A surgical resident came over from another patient to help, and she was now not sterile. The resident told the student she was holding her forceps wrong, proceeded to grab them from her hands, and then made the student leave her patient on the table to re-scrub, re-gown, and re-glove, and open a new instrument pack. All because she wanted to ask a question. This is a common technique they will use on us when we've done something incorrect to get us to remember it next time. Well, the entire class is fed up with this. Our class called a meeting about it, and we all decided we are all going to start showing up to lab at 11:50 to 11:55 a.m. Only 5 to 10 minutes early. Not for petty reasons either, but it's a matter of patient safety as well. Several students have fainted from skipping lunch to go and operate instead. We were given 11 to 12 for lunch and we're going to take all of our time. So, that's what we did. At 11:40 a.m. one of the surgeons came to our lecture hall, where the majority of us stay and eat lunch, and asked us why we're not in lab yet. A student at the front of the room said simply, "Lab begins at 12 noon. The surgeon gave us a long spell about professionalism and how we are being inappropriate and putting our patients at risk, and she left. The OR is a 2-minute walk from the lecture hall, so we finished lunch and all showed up around 11:55. The clinicians were very mad about it, and reported our class to the dean, and so the dean called a school-wide meeting about it. Some of our classmates spoke eloquently about our reasons and our actual patient safety concern, turning it right back on the clinicians citing patient safety. And, the school claims to care immensely about student mental health, since this profession has one of the highest suicide rates and our own class even suffered a loss, and cutting our break/lunch is no way to support us. Beyond that, the schedule says we begin at 12, and we are still showing up a few minutes early to ensure we can begin right at 12. Ultimately, the dean just released a statement saying they cannot force us to begin lab an hour early, and we will start at 12 when the dean's office scheduled lab to begin. It's a small win for us, certainly we will face backlash, but we have a break to eat at least. Our class is known for not putting up with BS from the school. We got a dinosaur of a professor fired for racist comments she made to a student in the middle of lecture. After she had terrorized students at this school for decades, she forgot out lectures were automatically recorded on Zoom during COVID. We're hated by the clinicians, but at least the classes behind us are having a slightly better time. Rude shopper wants a cake, instead he gets karma. From Throwaway Cakey. Disclaimer, all names have been changed to protect anonymity. I'm a cake decorator for my local grocery store. It's a fun job, if a little hectic at times. My store is located in a small town, which means I don't usually need to deal with all the more terrible customers you typically get at stores in larger cities. This town has been steadily growing, though, so a lot of new people are here. My store is also the best place in town to go to get a cake, and I've spent the last several years of my life getting us that reputation. It is extremely rare for me to have a customer complain about a cake that I prepare or customize, which is why this encounter sticks out so much. One other thing to note, while we don't have quite as much of them here, I've been in the industry long enough to have absolutely no patience with customers if they are rude or insulting, and as you probably already guessed, this is very relevant. Anyways, today I'm at my station preparing some cakes to stock in our case when this guy comes up to have me personalize a cake, where we put custom writing on that they ask for. We'll call him Dave. Once he's chosen the cake he wants, Dave hands it over to me to add the writing, which I promptly do. My typical style is a form of stylized cursive that looks very nice atop a cake. I never get complaints about it. I leave the cake on the counter for him to pick up once I'm done and return to what I was doing before as he picks up his cake. Just another sale, I say to myself. Until I see him walking back to the counter. I ask him if there's an issue. Dave's response, "No one can read what it says and it looks bad, it doesn't," and he wants me to rewrite the message. I say okay, I'll need to scrape the top of the cake and that will damage the top. I was about to tell him I would need a couple minutes to fix it up, but as he would have you know, Dave doesn't have time for any shenanigans from anyone, and he cuts me off. Now Dave says he doesn't want the cake and he'll pick another one and have that one written on. I roll my eyes internally and ask him which one he wants. He hands me the second cake, which I was planning to write on in a very legible print font, like you see here. But before I can get to work on the cake, he says, and I quote, "And get me someone who can spell. As you wish, master." My patience with Dave completely gone by this point, I tell him to go the front and ask for our assistant store leader, Antoinette, and she can help him. A bit later I see our front-end manager, Donna, who helps us out on occasion when we get behind, coming over to help Dave. Now, Donna is not a decorator, nor is Antoinette, and I never intended to get Donna involved, but that was out of my hands as my other helper was out on break at the time and I was not pulling him back because of one customer being dumb. I apologized later, I had no intention of embarrassing her. She can write on cakes, but she's much slower than me and all I was trying to do at this point was waste a bit of his time because he was rude to me. He explains what he wants, and I explain why she is doing it and not myself. Since he was so insistent on not wanting my help anymore, I'm not helping him anymore. Donna writes the message on the cake and he heads off again. But then, a few minutes later, Donna comes back with the absolute best case of unintentional cathartic irony. One of the words was misspelled. So now Dave is complaining again and wants the cake fixed again. We do our best to remove the misspelled word, but as I explained before, there's going to be a bit of damage to the top. Sure enough, there was a bit of residue left over from the writing, which is completely impossible to get off, not without re-icing the cake. It's doable, as I was trying to explain to him at one point, but, well, we never got that far. Anyways, since we were unable to get that little bit of residue off, of course he doesn't want the cake anymore and goes to complain to Antoinette. Now Antoinette is in my back room asking what the deal is. I now explain to her what's going on. Rolling her own eyes internally, she's a good person, she starts dabbing at the cake with a paper towel trying again to get the residue off. When she, too, realizes that it's not possible, she goes out to tell the customer that we can't get it off and he can either take the blemished cake with the corrected writing or pick another one. Dave is not offered a discount as this whole issue was caused because he didn't like my styling and he never gave me a chance to correct it myself before dismissing me as incompetent. So technically, no one did anything wrong. We were only doing exactly what he asked us to do, after all. Fallout. Dave ended up getting a third cake out of the case, not getting it personalized, and storming off muttering furiously to himself. No one got in trouble, everyone in the room could recognize the guy was being unreasonable. I later fixed the other cakes he had us wreck and returned them to the case. I couldn't make out what he was saying, but I did know this guy had just spent 15 minutes trying to bully us into giving him the perfect cake to his tastes. It was way beyond what we usually deal with, only to walk away with nothing but a face full of karma. And it was completely his own fault. No water, no work. From Mr. Lujum. My former employer was a quite large metal treatment company, and as you can imagine, it's hard, hot, and heavy work. While the manager of this factory, I can only assume, has the world's tiniest penis and feels the need to stamp his authority whenever he gets a chance. His number 2 is the lapdog type who just blindly follows what the big boss says even if it's an awful idea. I have way too many stories of ridiculous things that went on in my time there. Anyway, as was usual at this place, we all get pulled into the break room for a briefing. Basically just where we all get told how rubbish we are and all the wonderful things the company does for us. His best example was like making sure we all get paid, to which my response was, well, if you didn't, we wouldn't be here. So how is that doing such a great thing for us? This particular week we are told for some reason that we have no respect for the facilities and keeping things lean because we have our water bottles put on the various desks throughout the shop floor. We asked for a designated place to put them then, to which we are told it's now a health and safety issue. So we all go back and forth questioning whether we aren't allowed to drink water on shift. Obviously the boss and his lapdog see this is completely not allowed. So they say, oh no, but you have to go to the break room to get a drink if you feel thirsty. Very well, every single one of us on shift will go to the break room to get a drink of water whenever we are feeling dehydrated. I was the supervisor at the time and got the other 2 supervisors on board with me. So told all of the guys that every one of them had to go get a drink at least once every 30 minutes to make sure they weren't dehydrated in this dangerous environment. Totaling about 14 or 15 drink breaks per man. Minimum. Each taking approximately 5 minutes by the time they leave their station and return. Losing over 1 hour of production per man. Well, obviously this had a major impact on the productivity of the line. By the second day I was pulled aside by the lapdog and told the guys were taking the piss. I responded, well, they are only being responsible and looking after their own health and safety. That's what you want, isn't it? You don't want someone passing out and causing an accident, do you? This continued for another 3 days or so before there was not only a complete U-turn of the drinks bottle situation, but we used it to get the company to install water machines on every station in the factory. Apparently the so-called health and safety issue was no longer an issue. In the end, the big boss's tiny ego cost the company tens of thousands in production and thousands in water machine installations. I cost company $10,000 fine for delaying our outbound flight. From Adventurous_drag 2133. Many years ago, I worked for one of the largest overnight package delivery services. I was efficient at my job and followed all the rules. At the time, we were focused on expanding our international business. Due to individual country customs laws, we had a handbook showing all requirements for a particular country. This made processing international, non-document shipments extremely time-consuming. One particular day, pre-internet and cell phone, I'm working my regular route. My onboard computer, which gives me my work orders for pickup, starts beeping like it's malfunctioning. 2 p.m. I look at the screen, and all my work is getting reassigned. After clearing the message buffer, one stop, 1 mile away and not part of my route, pops up. It's for 125 4-foot-long rolled-up billboards going to all parts of Europe for a movie premiere. I call my dispatcher and tell her, WTH? Why did you give me a bulk stop on Mr. Lazarus route? Why can't he do it? Her answer, you know, he always refuses to work late. I tell her, send me back my route and find someone else. She said my boss told her to give it to me, not usually true, but was her standard response. I call my boss, he confirms. Mind you, I still had deliveries to finish. This bulk stop will take a minimum of 2 or 3 hours to process solo, so I tell my boss I can't do it on time on site and get back to the hub in time. He says, there is nobody else available. Do the best you can. I finish my deliveries and arrive around 3 at the location. The shipper hands me a stack of waybills and points to the pile of the rolls on the floor. I was pissed before I arrived. Now I'm fuming. I call my dispatcher requesting backup. Same response. No one is available, but I will try to get you someone. Never got the backup. I hang up and start mumbling, this is BS, so customer can't hear me. We are required to process packages at the customer location. This is necessary in case of errors or missing paperwork. Our delivery guarantees kick in as soon as we take packages off the customer location. Each of these packages is worth over $100 in shipping revenue. $15,000 approximately. QMC. So I get to work at 5 p.m. I'm not even half done. I load everything in my truck, drive back to the hub, and contact the manager on duty. I dump the entire shipment on the floor as instructed. 10 coworkers deck end on the pile. Boss says I can go home. I do my closeout routine, 20 minutes. I walk past the swarm of coworkers processing the pile. The next morning, I get called into the hub manager's office. She asks what happened. I explained as I did above. She says that the client was so important that they made our plane wait an extra 30 minutes, costing us $10,000, and that she had to write me up. I responded. I followed all company policies and was instructed by my direct boss to do my best. I did just that. I don't believe it is fair to get punished for working as directed. She looks at me and says, "You're right. You can go. Just make sure there is no next time. No write-up." Edit for context, it was policy to process packages on site. However, for bulk stops, it was normally allowed to take them back unprocessed despite policy. I chose to hold the cargo. This was after years of getting forced to do work that Mr. Lazyass refused to do. This was the last time they did it to me. Second edit. We were bound by Department of Transportation rules. I was approaching my hours limit, which is why I was told to leave once I returned to the hub. Violations of those rules could result in huge fines and an automatic write-up. So I complied with the strictest policy. My malice is in that I could have just loaded my truck and gone back with nothing processed. I would have still had to process the cargo but would probably have gotten help sooner with no flight delay. I knew I couldn't do it alone in 2 hours. My boss was a jackass who played favorites with Mr. Lazyass. This was the last straw. I followed procedure to the point that it conflicted with more serious policies that could have gotten me fired. Boss told me to deep clean the back and to not come to the front for any reason, so I did. From Dio_Bean. I'm a 20-year-old male that works at a very popular restaurant in a very snobby area. My main job is to assist the servers in any way I can so they only have to worry about sweet-talking the customers. I do all the heavy lifting for them, whether it's cleaning their tables or taking their drinks and food to their tables. I'm doing it, and all they have to focus on is making the customers laugh. They get tips that range from $17 to $40 per table while I make $8 an hour and get treated poorly. Enough backstory. Cue the malicious compliance. My manager came up to me and I'm better than you mood and told me to deep clean the floors, ice makers, walls, trash cans, and racks, and to not come to the front for any reason. I'm very annoyed at this because none of those things are my job duties. We have a staff that deals with all the cleaning of the back, so it didn't make any sense to have me do it. These tasks would have taken me an hour and a half max, but I was feeling a bit cheeky and decided to really deep clean the back until it was spotless. About 30 minutes later, the same manager comes up to me and tells me that there are 4 tables that need cleaning and 2 other tables just got sat and I need to bring their drinks to them. I looked at this man with a stare of a 20-year-old that has no bills to pay and I say, "No, I'm not done cleaning." He looked shocked and responded angrily, "You can finish later, they need help," and I countered with, "No, it's filthy here. We don't want a health inspector to just walk into this filth, do we?" He storms off like a toddler that didn't get their candy. 2 hours go by and I'm on my hands and knees scrubbing as if I was working for Chef Gordon Ramsay himself. The same manager comes back again with a smirk and says, "Wow, this looks like it's going to take you all day long. Maybe you should come to the front and help the servers since there's a huge Sunday rush." I replied with, "You might just be right," and I go back to cleaning. He storms off again. Fast forward to 2 minutes before my shift ends. My knees, legs, and fingers are all aching from cleaning. I shuffle my way to the front where my manager has been waiting for me and he says, "You finally decided to come help, huh?" And I look at him without saying anything and clocked out, and then I tell him, "Sorry, I'm not clocked in." I walked out to my car while he was blowing my phone up. I didn't care. I had 5 days off back to back and he can't fire me since I did as he told me to. The moral of the story is, don't think you are better than someone that has nothing to lose. Edit. For all the people that have been commenting that he can fire you, yeah, you are right, he could. But he won't do that because I'm the only one that is working the position, and no one has applied to come work at the place for $8 per hour. There are more details to the story than what I told, so instead of trying to be smart, just ask why do you say that instead of assuming I'm just some entitled kid who thinks they run the world. Thank you for reading. Second edit. Good morning everyone, sorry I can't read most of y'all's posts, but I'd like to say thank you and answer a couple questions on here. I don't have any living, food, or insurance bills. The only things I have to pay for are my flight school and saving up for a car, which I don't consider bills since I'm not being hunted down for those. I am also having a job interview tomorrow at a place that pays $17/HR, and I'll be working 1/3 of what I am at my current restaurant job. Lastly, I do get tip shares from the servers, but it goes straight to my paycheck, so that means that the servers can report less of what they made and give me less, so instead of making $8 per hour I'm making $9 per hour. I did the math through my paycheck. Thank you for reading. Smiley face. P.S. Update will be Friday. Picky Karen does not want to listen to my explanation. From Wasting Tim Away. I used to work at a Tex-Mex restaurant, you know, the ones that charge like $12 for a taco. I had a customer come in and she asked for 2 quesadillas that was gluten-free, cheese-free, vegan-free, hell, everything else free. I told her everything we normally put on it and she said no to everything. So basically, all she wanted was our gluten-free wrap with lettuce and tomato. Okay, that is fine, but if I put this like that into the system it will be $12 a piece. I can just get you a lettuce wrap with tomato and it will be $2.25. I was even going to heat it up a little, the bread, for her. I tried 2 times to explain this to her and she interrupted me and said I know what I want. I want the quesadilla this way, and if you can't understand this, then go to the manager. So I understood her, got it made the way that she wanted and brought it out. She gave me a smirk and was like, see, I knew you could do it. That made my blood boil and I was in shock that she was so dense. Once the bill came she grabbed it and before I could walk away she yelled, excuse me, so loud the surrounding tables all stopped. Yes ma'am, what can I help you with? I asked. Why the hell is it $24 for my 2 quesadillas? Because the price on the menu is $12 each. Yeah, but I didn't get any of the included items. Yes, but you ordered 2 quesadillas. Therefore, that is what you got charged. She of course spoke to the manager who sided with me and the lady paid her bill, the full $24 for those quesadillas. I did not, however, get a tip. Management saving pennies by throwing away pounds. From FM Litz SML. Posted on behalf of my brother, who doesn't really do social media. My brother's company has asked their staff to return to the office for a minimum of 3 days a week. He understands, it makes sense for those in central departments, but he works in an offshore office with 3 other colleagues, none of whom do the same job. Think of it as boss brother, local admin support, local engineering, local marketing. Since they worked from home, they've talked on the phone fewer than 10 times and met in person no more than twice. They work in different departments and don't really need to talk to each other now that everything's online. The company are insistent that it's one rule for all, except for the senior manager who decided to move out of their head office and to a different country. She's exempt because she's moved, apparently. Anyway, the whole ordeal annoyed my brother, but being the good guy he is, he relented as long as his team got the return to office kit that everybody else got. Namely, headsets, an extra laptop charger, and a locker. Well, his company decided not to supply lockers. He quoted their one rule for all back to his senior manager and was told no, central London is expensive so you must make do with your kit. The new downsized office is what you have, take it or leave it. The US staff, following their senior manager's lead, realized that she'd bought a wireless headset because it was easier to transport on her flights back to the country she lived in, so they'd all been given wireless headsets too. Again, he asked for wireless headsets, but was told no, the rule is wired headsets. My brother is a very patient man, he has 2 younger sisters, and we didn't make his childhood easy, so I get this part. He's also someone you never want to piss off because he's very happy to go full send to make a point. Whilst he's only got a team of 4, including himself, he's the most senior UK employee, totaling about 60 people. He agreed to wired headsets if he could request some appropriate periphery to go along with them. He waited until he got an approved email from his seniors until he put his plan into action. 60X wireless headsets were about 47 pounds each and came with a case. 60X wired headsets were about 30 pounds each. 60X headset cases were 10 pounds each. 60X Apple Lightning to 3.5mm adapters were 8 pounds each. The company phones are iPhones and don't have 3.5mm adapters. 60X large health and safety compliant backpacks were about 42 pounds each. 60X spare 3.5mm cables were about 2 pounds each. The company could have spent £2,820 on wireless headsets to keep their offshore staff happy. They ended up spending over double that, £5,520, and then complained that the wired headsets were too expensive. The newest UK hires are being issued with wireless headsets, and my brother is now looking to return all of the wired headsets and obtain wireless headsets for commonality and functional purposes. I don't think he'll follow through on that at the moment, but if he gets any more complaints, then I'm sure next time I see him for a drink he'll be wearing a wireless headset. TLDR, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Edit, formatting, and one small point I missed. Thank you for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe for more Reddit comment videos. Check the description for the original post from Reddit. Good luck to everyone today.